Hi everyone, it's your girl Karina. Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so I started a Uranus talk last night and got a little distracted and interrupted by something. So I'm back to do part two, okay? So if you're watching this and you have not seen part one, check that out because I talk about and explain Uranus in your chart. And I also go through Uranus from the first house to the fifth house. Okay, now I wanted to show you guys how to find your Uranus because some of you may not be as familiar. So see if I can get that right there. And this is astro.com, my favorite website to use. And that is the glyph Uranus right there. Okay. And how I know what house it's in is based off of that number right there. So you can see that clearly. My Uranus is in the, oops, lost it, is in the third house right there. Okay. So we are going to go through Uranus in the houses. Uranus is your spark of genius. Yeah, it's your spark of genius. Okay. It's where you show a rare form of your personality. And within this rare form is something unique against the grain, very different than what anybody else could have expected. Very innovative, very industrious, very futuristic, right? And Uranus is tied to the generations that you are from. It's tied to the generation that you're born in, okay? All of the outer planets measure you based off of the people that you're born with within a time frame. So people who have Uranus in a specific zodiac sign is going to speak to your generation and what innovation and what new sparks of creation and what you're going to leave behind, for the future. So Uranus is very important. Now, when you look at Uranus through the houses, we can look at your personal strife. We can look at your personal genius. And it is because it's different. And so you have to tap into your inner crazy a little bit. You have to tap into your inner electrifying personality that is very rare. That's why I also say that Uranus, in the word Uranus, is rare. Okay, is the word rare. And so it's a part of you that is not always easy to come out. And excuse me. And so what you need to understand about Uranus is that some of us have the ability to tap into it easier than others. And then some of us, we have to ignite it. And so hopefully these kind of videos will help you to ignite it, to find it, to seek it, have words to describe it, and then also to allow that to connect you, to be a door for you to open into your very strange but genius world. Okay. So hi Wayne, what's up? He says he has Uranus and Pluto in the 12th house Leo. Dope. So your Uranus and Leo speaks to the generation that you're born with and how these people who are born with Uranus and Leo have a lot of energy when it comes to providing for children, okay? And thinking about the future and what it is that children need, okay? So that's a version of it, and that's not as just customized to you, but it's also customized to all the people that were born with you when Uranus was in Leo. Hi, Earth Goddess TV. Peace. Welcome. Okay, great. Oh, so in the last video, I left off with Uranus in the fifth house. So you'll have to know where and how to find your Uranus. Again, go to astro.com. If you don't know, that's my favorite spot to go to. And look for your Uranus right there. And then which house it's in, that would be right here. So my Uranus is in Sagittarius. So that's the group of people that I came in with, and then my house is the third house. Okay. And if you have your Uranus from first to the fourth house, I covered that in the previous video that I did last night. Okay. All right. So let's keep going with Uranus in the fifth house. Okay. So this is actually very similar to Uranus and Leo. So Uranus and Leo or Uranus in the fifth house. Now, this is a very strange place for Uranus because it's oppositional energy. And in the fifth house, it's all about you. It's about the stage that you're creating for yourself and kind of calling attention to yourself and creating this whole, you know, world around you, right? It's where you're creative, it's where you're romantic, it's where everything revolves around you in the fifth house. But when Uranus comes to the fifth house, now things are going to go a little bit left, meaning that the stage is still there, but it's there for everybody. It's like you're creating a stage for you, but you're also creating a stage for the future to come. And so it has more depth, it has more meaning. Everything is not just about self gratification with Uranus in the fifth house. And it's that way in which you can tap into this rare form of your personality. If you let go of your own self gratification and think about, well, who am I doing this for? Who's going to think about the long game? Who's going to enjoy this years, even maybe centuries after I'm gone? Your creativity starts to take a space into the spark of genius. And you start to think and create from a place that is a more deeper well, a deeper space. Okay. And it could still be personal to you, but it's coming with a lot stronger intention. It's almost scientific and thinking about who would be that specific generation that I want to speak to in the future, and what is the message that I want them to know about me and about the times that I'm living in and what they need to take from that, right? So that kind of creativity is a long game in the fifth house, and that is your spark of genius. Now the other thing here is that you also have a romantic way about you that could actually benefit people. With Uranus here, you could create innovative ways for people to fall in love. This is a technological energy, Uranus, right? It's a spark of electricity. And so, in the house of dating and romance, you might create a new version of a speed dating experience or a a new social app, a new dating social app that is very quirky, very unique, and a new spin off of how people could come together and learn each other. So those are examples because the spark of genius, Uranus, is in the house of creativity and in the house of romance. So moving on, we have Uranus in the sixth house. Hi, Risen Realm, welcome. You say that you have Uranus in the fifth sextile Black Moon Lilith. Okay. Well, I'm actually going to go live again after this. And we are going to do a very specific live for Uranus conjunct Lilith. It is a it's a hugely underestimated conjunction and it's happening this December. Okay. And I will go through how that will affect everyone in their chart. So definitely look for that. Okay. Uranus in the sixth house. Well, what is the sixth house? The sixth house is ruling over your daily schedule, your health. Okay. So people who work with Uranus energy in the sixth house are creating new and innovative ways in which people can monitor their health. Like maybe there's a replacement for going to the doctor for a checkup, right? Or maybe there's like a new way that people could have surgery or do anything like that. So Uranus in the sixth house, sorry guys, that's the UPS truck. Uranus in the sixth house is focused on creating something that is going to help people be healthier and be actually more organized. All right. So, like apps that allow you to have checklists and organize things in your life. That's a typical Uranus in the sixth house. It's thinking about what is it that I have to do, and it's filtering it into some sort of like mini robotic secretary that takes care of all of your business. So if you think about Uranus in the sixth house, Your spark of genius is being connected to health and it's being connected to organization. It's all about being accountable in the sixth house. And the sixth house is actually one of our most miserable places. Unfortunately, because it's all about work, and sometimes work can feel meaningless. Sometimes work, like going to work and working at the office, unless you truly love what you do, you can find yourself in a really suffering place, right? So with Uranus here, the suffering is really trying to be uplifted, uprooted, and pushed out of the way. In which, if you have Uranus in the sixth house and you're working a measly 9 to 5, more than likely you have not tapped into your spark of genius, my friends. And what you need to do is to start to connect to the kind of vocation and the calling and the purpose that you have, even if it's very strange. You might find that you're going to do work that is atypical, that is not what most people would understand. They might even belittle it, they might even say that you're crazy. They might even say, how will you make any money from this, right? But Uranus working in the sixth house wants to change the way that we live our daily lives, and working is one of them. Here, it's creating new pathways and new gateways for you to make income, but also be really happy with the time that you spend making that income. And that's also a part of the sixth house. So, your spark of creation is based off of creating something new for people so that they can enjoy those mundane and mediocre aspects of life, which is going to the doctor, keeping ahead of their schedule, and going to work. So Uranus in the sixth house has a hard task to labor, but if accomplished, can create a lot of pleasure, joy, and excitement in their life and in the lives of those who will come ahead of them, right? And who can utilize their genius and whatever it is that they create for the workspace. Okay, so now Uranus in the seventh house is kind of funny because this is the house of marriage, commitment, and I think that is kind of hard to figure out. Well, what is your spark of joy when it comes to marriage and commitment? Well, one of the things that I think of when we think of the seventh house is this concept of artistry and creativity, right? Now we find creativity in the fifth house, but in the seventh house, creativity becomes artistry. And within artistry requires these collaborations with people that can help put you on in another level, right? It's like you have this natural talent that you gain from the fifth house, but then you want to carve it out or get extra help or get extra input as far as what you have created. And that's what we find in the seventh house. So I feel like Uranus in the seventh house, when it speaks to that aspect of us, right? The feedback that we get from our creations, right? And building ourselves to be an artist. The things that we need to brand ourselves, to begin the conversation of branding yourself, requires another person to bounce those things off of. With Uranus in the seventh house, your spark of genius is actually a little bit more like a loner. You may not necessarily need another person, but you might need a system of trial and error, almost like a science experiment about how you relate to the world and how you come off to the world based off of whatever it is that you create. So when I say create, I mean anything from writing a song, right, which is something that I love to do, or dancing or painting, or just simply writing a book, you know, or making a video, making a YouTube video, any sort of creation. It's something that is an idea that you put some time into, and now you are giving it out to the world. And in the seventh house, this is you maybe having to do it a little bit by yourself and experiment and discover what it is that the world needs to relate to you. You're not necessarily needing another human as much as you need a perfect equation so that when you bring it to humans, they have no choice but to enjoy it. So you can experiment by trying out different things. And yeah, people are going to be enjoying it, but it's mainly more of a trial and error situation. So the seventh house is kind of funny because it's really a one-on-one situation. But whenever we bring Uranus into the picture, it's like a virus. It's like it goes into that place and then it spreads pew out into whatever it is that it's doing, right? So like in the fifth house, it's creating these programs and ideas for the future generations, you know. In the sixth house, it's doing that for the workspace, right? It's like a virus in the workspace. When the seventh house is like a virus between how you relate to people. So you're creating various amounts of things. You're creating quantity so that you just put it out. You know, it's like when somebody has to binge watch like 10 videos or whatever, right? The one that they watch the most is going to be the one that you're like, that's my product, or that's the thing that people need to relate to. So you gain a lot of information. You're a true scientist in the seventh house, and you're weighing out what is relatable and what isn't based off of what it is that you have created. You have a collaboration with your own science, with your own experiments, and this is your spark of genius. However, you may appear to be a little bit cuckoo crazy. In fact, anywhere that you find Uranus, you may appear to be cuckoo and crazy. In the seventh house, it's that way because a lot of people won't be able to relate to you at first. Since you're using them as an experiment, it's very much so that they are not going to give you the feedback that you want right away. It's the key here is to understand that it is a science experiment so that you can continue to tap into that crazy and that rare form of learning how to relate to people. You may have struggled with relating to people, been a socially distant person your whole life, right? But learning how to create and in this way is like a gateway into understanding the nature of humans. There might be a part of you that it doesn't quite understand it until you do this process. So your spark of genius is to experiment. Now, in the eighth house, Uranus is working through the psychology. Again, you're going to find yourself to be quite crazy to some people. You're going to have to watch out for situations that may have left a negative imprint on you because Uranus will bring this up to the surface. And whoever is a part of those memories for you, they're going to get it. Uranus isn't here for revenge, but Uranus is here to not overlook anything. Because it is electricity, it gives life to everything, including traumas, including the people who were villains, who were enemies to you in your life. Uranus is going to bring them up to the surface. So, what is your spark of genius in the eighth house of psychology? Well, the spark of genius that is happening here is your ability to transform and the story that you have in transforming from these traumatic experiences. It is from this story and from this ability to bring it up to the surface, to bring it to life, in which you actually start to discover new and innovative ways in which people can be under therapy, can go to counseling, can experience life in a more positive manner than they have before. Because quite often, when we experience something very traumatic, it kind of governs for us how we're going to walk into the world. And that's kind of the eighth house energy. So with Uranus here, you're creating a gateway for people to heal because you needed it and you know that other people need it as well. Okay, and that's Uranus in the eighth house, your spark of genius. Now, in the ninth house is about spirituality and higher learning, going to college and getting that fancy diploma or master's or whatever. And Uranus actually creates new life for education in the ninth house, providing for you a chance to understand that maybe the education you've had so far has been lackluster. And what you really need is a spark of genius and electricity to inform yourself and then to create new paths, new industrial, innovative inventions that allow for people to learn in a way that is maybe catered to their learning type and also gives people a new chance to learn without the enforcement of like a system or a rule that doesn't work for them, right? So sometimes in our educative journeys, we could find that, you just have to learn it this way. There's no other way to do it. Uranus wants to shake things up here. And it also wants to shake up your idolization of teachers and college people and whatnot, like professors, whatever. It really wants you to, Uranus dismantles people in the ninth house and in a lot of areas. It brings down the ego, and it uplifts the concept of the people, of the community, and of the network. So in the ninth house, it's uplifting the students. It's bringing the students to be the ones to determine how they want their education, or how to cater and customize education for them. And people who have Uranus in the ninth house will focus on these areas of higher learning and create new and innovative ways that people can be educated. Okay. In the 10th house, Uranus is going over the concept of my inner authority and my outer authority, but also my career, my legacy. Uranus is your spark of genius because in the 10th house, similar to the ninth house, there are certain rules and ways in which you climb to the top in the ladder of success. Well, Uranus is that one thing, that one possibility that would shoot you up that ladder and you don't have to work as hard for it. Because a lot of the energy of the 10th house, which is Saturnian ruled, is about working really hard to get something that you want. And it's something that we value in this reality, in this matrix, right? Well, Uranus is a spark of electricity that it's almost beyond just good luck, like you would typically find with the Jupiter. It's such a wide space, good luck. But when Uranus hits, it's like this is an this is a order of the gods, right? It's an order of something higher than you. If you spark your Uranus in the 10th house, there's something that you're supposed to do, and it's not about working hard. It's just about putting you in that position to do it so that you can shake things up and create new ways for people to reach those career heights as well. So, Uranus is a typical ceiling breaker in the 10th house, creating new and innovative ways for people to have their own success, have their own legacies, and creating new industries for people to work for people to get paid for, to feed their families for. So Uranus in the 10th house is huge because it breaks the mold that we live under when it comes to our concept of success. And your spark of genius is going to catapult you to the top so that you can do the things that you want to do. Now, if you find yourself in a career or not really working on your legacy and Uranus is in the 10th house, you're going to have to tap into the gateway. You're going to have to shake things up. More than likely, you're abiding by an old traditional systematic idea of what a career has been, and it's probably coming from your parents because the 10th house also rules over your first authority, which is your parents. And you're going to have to burst through some really strong concrete ceilings that have been created for you so that your Uranus can give you what you want, which is a free ride straight to the top. Okay. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining. And let's see who's in the house. Bark Scorpion Moon, welcome. Earth Goddess still here. Wayne Peak, thank you, still here. Uranus and Taurus has been wild. I mean, do you see what is going on this year? A lot of that has to do with Uranus and Taurus, and more to come because Taurus rules over the financial systems. I have Chris Curry, welcome. He says, I have Uranus in the 10th with Saturn and Neptune. Yeah, so Saturn with Uranus is going to control Uranus, and especially in the 10th house, creating even more difficulties in being successful, but it's about merging the two. So Saturn is your rule giver and Uranus is your rule breaker. And you have to finagle between them of when you're breaking the rules, when to take a step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward. But you're always you if you want to tap into your spark of creation, you really want to work on cracking those rules down. So That's that. Okay, Uranus in the 11th house. Well, like I said, Uranus is like this program. It's like this virus that goes into a computer and it goes bang and like covers everything, right? So the 11th house is its natural home. And if you have Uranus here, you are naturally supposed to be like your own virus, okay? And the idea here is that as a human being, you can infiltrate and connect with all walks of people from all different kinds of backgrounds, right? And your spark of genius is this social like intelligence to understand people, to communicate with people, even if you don't speak the same language, even if you don't have the same religion as them, even if you come from different economical backgrounds, different ethnic backgrounds. Your ability to tap into people is is beyond this the talent of social abilities, right? But we'll call it social intelligence. And like a virus, you infiltrate yourself into different groups and societies, organizations, and you put in your own ideas. You're a true manifester here in pushing your ideas and seeding them into different types of people so that they can go out and spread those ideas for you. So, like I said, Uranus is an energy of being viral. And in every house, you become like that virus in which you're creating something that spreads out longer than you. It's this long game. Well, in the 11th house, you literally become, you are embodying that concept of a virus, right? So you want to check and see what kind of energy and ideas are you giving out, because that will determine if you are, a virus that everyone wants to have or one that's going to shut down the whole system. I don't know. Everybody's got a different role here in this earthly plane. But to understand that your spark of joy is based off of these ideas. And when we look at the word genius, it's tied to the genes, right? So because Uranus is in its natural ruler here, it all of this is coming together in which you are sparking a rare form of possibility for the future genes or the future generations, okay? And it all comes from your ideas and your social abilities to go out and intermingle with people of all different walks of life. And that is your spark of genius when you're to the eighth house, because that's our psychology. But we become very aware and conscious of our psychology, especially when it's brought out to us, like in counseling or like in astrology. But the 12th house, we're not always very conscious of what's going on in the subconscious. Okay, so Uranus is tapping you into realms that are beyond this consciousness, meaning interdimensional travel, maybe even some time travel, but through the mind, through the subconscious mind, being able to tap into thousands, millions of years ago if you're really, really strong with Uranus. But even if just tapping into your past lives, tapping into decades before you were born, Uranus brings electricity to the oceans of your mind. And it's interesting because electricity needs water, and the 12th house is all water. So this is also another place that, if not controlled, could bring you into some, situations of being judged or boxed in as crazy, or actually even um, dealing with some mental health issues. And a lot of times, people who have mental health have Uranus or Neptunian transits or natal placements, and it's really because they're tapped into something else, a different frequency. And within this frequency, it's just not normal. It's not socially even healthy for some people to be in such a frequency because they're unable to take care of themselves, like even function physically. Now, that's not everybody, but those are the possibilities that can happen, right? So in the 12th house, we tap into the astral realm, the cosmic realm, the ancestral realm through this electric spark from Uranus. And it is recommended to do this with maybe somebody to help you do this, or to do this with care, because when you tap into that realm, you leave the body in the 12th house. You're not anymore attached to anything of the earthly plane in the 12th house. You're more attached to everything in the ethers in the 12th house. So Uranus is bringing spark to that which is not seen or accessible. And that is your spark of genius, but it's also a in line when it's in the 12th house. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed this little rundown of Uranus being your spark of genius. And like I said, I'm going to take a little mini break and then come back and do another live. And in this live, we're going to talk about Uranus and Lilith and the conjunction that is happening in December, and we will look at Uranus and Lilith conjunct in your natal chart, which house it's going to be in, and we'll talk about how that could manifest for you and how to utilize that energy to the best of your ability so that you are the creator in the manifestor world instead of being reacting in the audience of somebody else in your world. So thank you so much, you guys. I will see you in a little bit. Peace and love.